I am Kristen Schweitzer. I am the Director of Global Operations for our Integrated Production team at GTB. I have almost 20 years in advertising and marketing experience, 13 of which has been supporting WPP in one form or another. I'm a very linear thinker in a creative business, which I'm sure many of you are, which can be seen by the fact that I used a pie chart to show my experience. But I was very fortunate to start my career supporting automotive because marketing a product as complex as a vehicle really offered me a unique opportunity to build a broad base of expertise across the board, from product strategy to creative operations. So GTB is the largest office and Ford is the largest client of WPP. Sir Martin Sorrell, WPP's CEO, coined the term horizontality, and that's what we use to describe our agile agency model that allows all WPP clients to tap into our extensive network of specialized teams. So here you can see a sample of the various WPP companies that have supported Ford Motor Company throughout the years. Some of these started in the early 1940s. So for many years, these agencies worked together, collaborating to support different parts, different pillars of the Ford business. In 2007, these teams came together and we created two new agencies. One is Blue Hive and one was Team Detroit. And then just last year, we all came together as one singular global agency called GTB. So the WPP network continues to grow. Today, it's comprised of many of the world's leading advertising, PR, digital, and marketing companies. The home office in Dearborn, Michigan uses a pretty simple process to turn an idea into something. It could be an ad, a website, a post, anything, and then to measure it to see if we were successful. So there's 4 basic steps in this creative life cycle. The first one is strategic planning. This is where we figure out who we're going to talk to and what we're going to say. Then we go into creative ideation. This is where we figure out how we're going to say it. Third is integrated production. That's where we figure out how we're going to bring that idea to life. And then fourth is measurement. Again, were we successful? So for this session, we're going to focus on integrated production. That's the team that I'm in, and that's where the bulk of creative operations takes place. So within integrated production, that third step, there's 3 major stages. The first is execution. This is where you're going to find your producers, your business affairs teams, your procurement functions. Then the project moves into validation. Validation is where our project coordination team takes the project around to the different governance teams to ensure compliance. Those teams could be copy editing, our ad compliance team, which interfaces with client legal, and product insights, which is unique to automotive, but they're the team that makes sure that we are portraying the products accurately and highlighting the advantages. So all of these teams are in constant contact with the rest of the agency: account, strategy, PM, creative. And crucial to the process is collaboration and communication, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So the benefits of a well-run creative operation are many. When it's done well, you get a strong, consistent, on-strategy brand message. The quality of your content is going to be at its highest and at the lowest possible cost with the quickest possible turnaround time. You'll start to see fewer of those last-minute emergency requests coming through, and then you can better plan your team and your resources to be ready for it. And then finally, when you can proactively manage the work, you can instead take the time that used to be spent on those rush jobs and start focusing how to do things faster, better, smarter, cheaper in the future, continuing that cycle of continuous improvement. So now it's time to transition from a local creative operation to a high-functioning global discipline. What happens when the client that loves what you created for one region and now wants to make it their global campaign? It's not easy. Creative operations does not scale one-to-one, but it can be done. So let's look at an example. This is the 2015 Ford Mustang. It's an iconic American brand that for the first time ever was launching all around the world. This is a sample image that perfectly captures the spirit of Mustang. Route 66, freedom, open road, independence. Now envision a scenario where this creative has been picked up to go global. The imagery may work for the US, but as we gather input from our regional leads around the world, we may find that they need to make some changes to express that same feeling in their markets. So, for example, one market may need a different background. They don't have mountains and sagebrush there. Maybe the product isn't offered in that color in their region. Maybe the local client just wanted a brighter shot, less shadow in it. Or this happens a lot. Cultural differences means we need to find a different model. So even the best creative operation process is not going to change those market level needs. And if we had addressed all of those regional needs with one singular image, your project splinters and all your efficiencies are lost. You're back to creating individual assets for individual markets. So while I can't change any of those global differences, I can at least share some of the things that we learned as we went on our journey. First of all, early information is gold. Getting information early in the process can be a challenge. We've already heard that this morning. There are so many moving parts to a project, and information seems to be coming in up until and sometimes even after production begins. But the more that is known early, the better the teams can plan the details. So this could include making decisions on location, vendor selection, talent, production schedules, even approval timings, especially if you're going to start having to create individual assets for individual needs. So the way we look at it was we evaluated the information two ways, internal and external. First of all, understand what you're working with. What are your systems and tools? What is the team going to use to get visibility into their project? Who is the team? What are their strengths? What are the people that you have working on your group? And what's the process that they use? How is it working today? Where's the bottleneck? Where are their frustrations? And then second, what are your external challenges that you're up against? How similar are the products, the environments, the target audiences? And what type of challenges are you up against when it comes to legal or language or even cultural barriers? So the next is to determine where to locate your center of excellence for each function, central or local. So instead of looking at each discipline based on when they appear in the process, like that first chart that we looked at, we instead looked at the expertise needed for each. So disciplines that relied on external variables needed to stay within their respective markets. So for example, if the language skills needed for copy editing or the local law knowledge needed for ad compliance would be too difficult to master outside of those local markets, then centralizing that discipline, the benefit of centralizing it was diminished. But what we did find was that functions that relied on sharing content, ideas, or information that are held internally had a much better chance of succeeding globally, especially when they're supported with good collaboration and strong communication. So when we plotted all our functions along this spectrum, we started to see which ones would really benefit from centralization and which ones really needed to stay local. So remember, again, the goal is not to just blanket centralize everything. What we're trying to do is optimize the sharing of best practices and the coordination of efforts. And third, communication is everything. Again, we've heard this a couple times already today, but in the Mustang example, our strategy was strong, the creative idea really worked. Our job was to produce brand messaging that was effective at a market level, repurposing as much as we possibly could without dilution. So that's a key point. If we had changed everything in that image so that it worked for every region, we would have narrowed it down so much you would have seen a shot of the logo and that would have been it. So it is possible to dilute imagery so much that it loses all relevance. So remember, efficiencies don't matter if the work is ineffective. Not every campaign can be global. Market level creative can be very successful and is very often needed. And that's why, again, collaboration, workflow tools, local support, and especially team trust are so important. Remember, any relationships that you've already built locally are going to be 10 times harder to build in a multi-location scenario, especially if it's global. And they're next to impossible to build if you don't have that essential two-way trust and communication. And finally, my favorite part of the job, we found that the creative operations role really became kind of an agency ambassador. I was the one connecting teams, connecting offices, even connecting projects. So go into your offices, meet the teams, learn their processes, share some of your battle wounds, don't take anything personally, and work to keep building those relationships that occur so easily when you sit right next to someone. So marketing on a global scale is exciting and full of opportunity, especially and most importantly when supported locally. There's 3 major things to keep in mind if you're venturing down this path. Number 1, consider potential hurdles, known and unknown, early in the process. 2, not every discipline can be globalized, and that's okay. And 3, communication and trust are truly everything. Good relationships take constant maintenance, and players on a global team cannot exist in a vacuum. So be the connector, communicate through the process, and celebrate the great work. Thank you for joining. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or shoot me any emails if you have any questions. Thank you.